Terrell Brooks stepped into the diner drenched from head to toe, arriving exactly 5 minutes past the shift start. He barely had time to catch his breath before he was dismissed on the spot, publicly, harshly, and without mercy. The entire room fell silent as dozens of customers watched the scene unfold. No one spoke, no one intervened. Terrell didn't realize that the quiet man seated in the corner, the same stranger he had helped in the storm the night before, was witnessing every word, every insult, every cruel accusation. That man listened without expression, absorbing it all. And when he finally stood and crossed the threshold of Riverbend Diner, every bitter sentence the manager had hurled would soon return with consequences that would follow him for the rest of his life. But to understand how everything came to this moment, we need to go back to the small decisions, back to the night when two lives quietly collided. If you enjoy emotional stories filled with unexpected turns, make sure you stay with me until the end. So what really happened that night in the rain? And how did it lead Terrell to this moment? The storm was relentless. Rain slammed against the windshield of Terrell's aging Ford pickup like metal hammers. His hands clenched the steering wheel, dark fingers stark against the cracked leather. His white diner shirt was still damp from an earlier coffee spill. The windshield wipers shrieked as they fought the downpour, granting only fleeting glimpses of the road ahead. It was nearly 11. Riverbend Diner had closed late because a tour bus had arrived unexpectedly. Terrell had served every table with the same warmth he always did, even while his thoughts drifted home to his 6-year-old daughter. Maya was with the neighbor tonight. She was probably already asleep, curls fanned across her pillow. Still, he needed to get home. His paycheck would barely cover rent this week. Barely, as long as nothing went wrong, as long as the car held together, as long as Maya didn't get sick. Too many conditions, too many worries for one exhausted father. Terrell rubbed his eyes. 2 years had passed since Londa died in that accident. 2 years of learning how to be both parents. 2 years of bedtime tears, unpaid bills, and pretending to be strong. Some nights he wondered if he was failing, but stopping wasn't an option. The headlights cut through rows of oak-soaked trees as he drove through the quiet Atlanta suburbs. Too quiet. So quiet that when he spotted something ahead, his heart thudded hard. A black sedan sat crooked along the roadside, hazard lights blinking weakly through the rain. The hood was open, smoke drifted upward and vanished into the night. Beside the car stood an elderly white man, silver hair plastered to his scalp, suit ruined by the storm. One hand clutched the car as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. No umbrella, no help, just fear etched into his face as he stared at his phone. Terrell slowed, tires sliding slightly on the wet pavement. His mind warned him, it's late, you're alone, you have a child waiting at home. Then he noticed the man's shaking shoulders, the trembling hands tapping uselessly at a phone with no signal. He saw not a threat, but someone stranded. Terrell remembered Londa's accident. Had anyone stopped for her? Had she been alone? He pulled over. You okay, sir? He called through the rain. The man startled, then turned. Relief flickered across his wrinkled face. My car died, he said. No signal, no tow truck. Terrell took him in, the expensive suit now soaked, the polished shoes ruined by mud. Wealth meant nothing out here. Get in. You'll freeze out here. Robert Chamberlain hesitated. Every warning he'd ever learned about strangers screamed in his mind, but the cold was merciless. 45 minutes had passed. No cars, no help. Sometimes, trust is all that's left. Robert climbed into the truck. Inside, warmth replaced fear. Water dripped onto the seats. Thank you, Robert said quietly. I'm Terrell. Robert. They drove in silence, rain drumming on the roof. Soon, Terrell pulled into a modest apartment complex. You can stay here tonight. No hotels nearby. Robert protested weakly, but exhaustion won. Inside, the apartment was small but spotless. Toys lay neatly arranged. Photos of a smiling little girl decorated the wall. My daughter, Maya, she's asleep. Something stirred in Robert's chest. 20 minutes later, wrapped in borrowed clothes, Robert sat with a bowl of soup warming his hands. You didn't have to do this, just doing what's right. Not everyone does, Robert replied. They talked about life, loss, parenting, work. When Terrell spoke of his wife, his voice faltered. When he spoke of Maya, it softened. Dawn, Robert was gone. Only a note remained. Thank you for seeing me as a human being. Terrell smiled, folded it, and moved on with his never imagining what would follow. The next morning unraveled fast. Maya woke with a cough. The truck barely started. By the time Terrell rushed into the diner, he was 10 minutes late. The room went silent. Derek Matthews stood waiting. Public humiliation followed. No No mercy, no understanding. 10 minutes erased 4 years of loyalty. Take off the apron, Derek snapped. You're fired. Terrell left with nothing but shame and fear. Across the street, a black sedan sat parked. Robert watched everything, and this time he would not stay silent.